Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you could make it. This is Leanne Boland. I'm the Executive Director, President of Frc Chesapeake. And this is our FTC FRC Town Hall for tonight. I just want to start off the agenda tonight with a welcome and housekeeping. You'll see also I will give a quick update on a couple of things, and then we'll turn it over to the real meat of the town hall, which is the programs update, and we'll finish up with a Q&A. We'll go on to the housekeeping. Just so you know, this is being recorded and it will be shared on YouTube later. Let's hold all questions and comments until after the updates, but go ahead and type them into the comments as you think of them. We also have comments that were submitted ahead of time that we will be addressing tonight. We do have a hard stop at 7 o'clock, so if you have additional questions or suggestions in the comment that you want to put in the comment box and we don't get to it, we will address those via email later this week. And then there will also be additional opportunity for feedback and comments in the coming months. So now I get to share some good news with you. We have the first Chesapeake Board FRC team grants. Those are opening up. This year our board dug deep and made personal contributions to a fund to help our FRC teams. So we will be sending out an email about this. You'll also be able to find the information on the website with the application link under the team resources, FRC team resources. And so you just see here the application is due February 12th. There are a limited number of grants. Oh, guess what? So I apologize. This is switched around. So this actually is announcing the Newport News Shipbuilding Grant, which I'll be talking about as well. But we do have board grants, and the board grants are for $1,200, and you will be getting an email about that. So don't worry about it. You'll get the information tomorrow or tonight, and you'll also be able to find it on the website. So we'll go to the next one. And here we go. The descriptions were flipped. So this is the board grant. So this is funding for a limited number of FRC teams in DC, Maryland, or Virginia. So whereas the Newport News Shipbuilding grants are limited to the Hampton Roads area, this is for all of the first Chesapeake district. Grants can be used to defray costs of materials, local competitions, outreach, travel, and funding levels will not exceed $1,200. Now, if you are in the Hampton Roads area and your needs exceed the 2,000 cap of the Newport News Shipbuilding grants, you may also apply for this grant as well. Again, you'll be receiving the links and all of the information on this in an email and also on the website. So, next one. I want to tell you about our Jim and Lorraine Schubert Unsung Hero Mentor Award. We'll be doing this again this year. We did it last spring. And this is an award for a deserving mentor. It's usually a mentor who works with an under-resourced team. It's a mentor who goes above and beyond. And the mentor can be a rookie or a veteran. They need to be nominated. And they need to be nominated by March 19th. If they are selected, and we will select a mentor from FTC and from FRC, if they are selected, they will receive recognition at our awards ceremony this spring. Their team this year will also receive a $250 cash unrestricted grant, and the mentor will receive a cash award from us as well. So that is it for me, and I am going to turn it over to our Director of Programs, Ron Therian.
We have a few new items that we're trying to put into play for teams who didn't register this year because they weren't able to compete or whatever. Because you can't get into school or that kind of thing. So we've got these spotlights that we're going to try and do for teams, and it's open to all teams, whether you registered for an event or not. This is true for FRC and FTC teams. And kind of, what it is, we're going to have commentators that are actually going to get on, do a little interview of you, and we're going to create little reels that we can play and use them on some of our Chesapeake chats or even during competitions for, both FTC and FRC. The first sign up, the first recordings we're going to do are going to be on the 23rd. And that's your, the sign up genius there. If you go to there, you can actually sign up to do one of those slots in there. And again, it doesn't have to be just about the robot. Even if you didn't build a robot or you're using last year's robot or whatever, you can talk about other things that you're doing as a team. So. And then we also have another opportunity here that we came up with, is we're calling it the Starter Kit Challenge. And basically, again, this is going to be open to all teams, whether you've been able to meet in person or not. You can do this at home, kind of thing. And the winners are going to be judged by a committee comprised of the staff and some of the First Chesapeake board members. And we're going to pick a winner from both the FTC side and the FRC side for it. And the winners will be recognized at the award ceremony. And also the teams will be awarded a $250 prize as well. And so kind of what is the challenge? We're basically trying to keep it as open as possible, but we'd like to have it kind of in those two categories. So we have something oriented towards new mentors and how to get new mentors trained and up to speed, as well as new teams being trained and up to speed. So something that will help rookie teams and get them advancing. And if you look there, that's kind of the sky's the limit. You can do PowerPoints, games, videos, apps, whatever you can possibly think of. So the thing in there we will give an award for the new mentor one for FTC and also one for FRC, and then for the new team one for both of them as well. And then there's another thing that came up recently. It is specifically about sharing fields. So like with the at-home challenge for FRC, as well as the remote sessions with FTC, a lot of teams don't have fields and want to have access to them. Some people out there I know already have offered up a way to get them. So what we did is we created this. If you go on that forum, if you have a field and you're willing to let other teams use it, they obviously would need to schedule it with you. We don't want to get in the middle of that, but you'll be able to sign up, say, what your field is and your contact information. And then we're going to actually list that on the First Chesapeake, on the events pages. Like for the remote stuff, it'll be just a table that says, okay, here's 10 people that are willing to share a field. If you guys want to go contact them to see if there's a time you can set up to use it. And these links that are in here, the same as what Leanne was saying, we'll send these out, in a blast to the team so everybody knows what's kind of going on in there. We covered some of this before, but specifically talking about hybrid events. Originally we were planning all our events around 50, a 50-person limit, because that's what the limit was at the time. And then the holidays came and all these new strands of COVID and stuff happened. And so the limits have moved down. So what we've got in here is we've actually have events so that if at that moment in time, we're going to use the local and CDC guidelines for, what's the maximum indoor limit. So, for our first set of events, that's going to be 10 for these FTC events that are coming up. By the time, it gets towards the end of the season, maybe that number will go up to 25. If it does, we'll adjust accordingly. So, we've got it so we have the ability to do any of these three here. And again, we'll stay with the, whatever the local folks where that venue says it will be, we'll stay in that situation. And if for some reason they shut us down, we'll still be able to do remote events, specifically in the FTC side with remote judging. And and that's, kind of it. The teams, in essence, you're going to compete in the smaller one-day event. So if there's 10 there, we'll go through what that looks like in a minute. But, if there's only 10 people at a time meeting, each team will only be there for an hour, like an hour and 10 minutes of time, through that weekend to do their competing. Limiting attending team members and to team members and mentors. Nobody, we're not allowing anybody else in to even watch. You can watch from home, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. And with that, you can see with that number up there, with 10, we're only having 2 people on site. There'll be a head ref and then a staff or venue manager person to kind of help on keep things moving there. And everybody else will be remote. So, and then afterwards we'll do the remote award ceremony after teams actually compete. I wanted to just kind of point out, because we did a scrimmage, an FTC scrimmage in the Fulton location where we've got events, they're planned for FTC and FRC. And you can see it's a relatively large facility. Our stuff is kind of lost in the back corner. But what I wanted to point out is we're trying to do this at all the events, and it may vary depending on the doors and how things laid out. But, in this case, we have an entryway. Teams come in. It's a one-way. You can only come in that way. You don't go back out there. So in this, you would come in this way, walk over to that little check-in station there. We have actually little bottles of disinfectant that, each team takes one, so you can take that back to your pits and you can all share that. There's on that folder there, that's where you turn in your paperwork, your consent and releases. And on the side of that post is actually mounted a temperature sensor. So you go over to that and you, do your forehead into it, and it actually reads your temperature. And if you're out, if it's a high temperature, an alarm actually goes off in there. So you can pretty much hear it in that whole place. But so that's what we're trying to do is, you need to go through the questionnaire, and that's the piece that's on the side of that column as well. And we're encouraging everybody, do your consent and release at home. Bring it from home. Go through this checklist at home. Make sure that everything matches on that checklist. And I will say, we've had a couple questions on the checklist, a couple items on there, because as with all of this COVID, things change, and some of the CDC requirements have been tweaked since then. We did that, so we will be updating it in time for the first set of events as well. So kind of, if you want the most current, up-to-date items, check our events website, because we keep the forms out there. And then the other picture I'm showing you there is that's what one of the pits looks like. Now, because that place is so big, that pit is huge. I will, and we did this scrimmage, and the folks that actually had this pit, after we got in there, you're doing a match for 10 minutes. You're doing a match and you get 5 minutes in between. You're doing another match, you get 5 minutes in between. This all happens so quickly that you need to make sure you have enough batteries to kind of be able to keep going with your robot. But also, don't bring much for your pit, because you're not going to have much time except to do minor repairs in there. The other team that actually competed there didn't bring anything. They brought their robot and some tools, and they had them on the floor. They just went over on the floor and worked on the robot when they wanted to, and kind of went that way. And that's kind of what we'd recommend. And then also you can see, when it was time to go outside or whatever, we have an exit only door. So there's another door that takes you actually out on the side of the building. This was kind of the setup on the field, and I just wanted to point out with a 10-person FTC event what it would look like. There was only one team there, so the one person was taking pictures on the other side. But once we went to 2 teams, basically it's set up so that one team will actually be over in the Blue Alliance driver's station area. The other will be on the red area, and when you compete, you'll be on the same alliance. So the first time everybody will compete, they'll be on the red alliance. The next time you'll compete, you'll be on the blue alliance. But you don't actually change locations. You stay in that kind of driver box. One of the things we've found, because there's only one team sharing a box that would normally be 2 teams in it, if you brought your tools over and your batteries or whatever you wanted, you could actually bring them over close to you, so you don't have to run back to the pits every time when we do a setup. The other thing I will say is that through the randomization process, just to make it kind of simple, because we're running with smaller groups. We're running with 4 rings all the time. So when we randomize, it'll always come up with 4. And the people that are going to be running remote events, we're going to be doing the same thing. You'll be doing the 4 as well. So basically, you're just going to switch back and forth between red and blue through your matches. And that way you can test your autonomous on both sides and so on. That big screen that's in the back is actually the audience display. So if part of your team wants to come in on the audience, they can see it. There's a camera that they can see the field. There's a speaker there. There's a microphone, but I will warn you that it gets kind of noisy in these places. So them hearing you and you hearing them gets a little tough at times. Plus, you can see the air conditioning that's in there. These are very high ceilings, and the air is turned around a lot. Kind of what we just went through. I just kind of wanted to put this in here real quick just to kind of point out, we're going to do the virtual stands piece, but, with having those people at the venue, we have a ton of people in the background that are helping us go through, and, the referees are scoring these things remote and so on. Even though there's a head ref at the field to take and make sure, we're moving forward on schedule as much as we can. We got a lot of people in the background. We have commentators. We're going to have it online. We'll still do the Twitch feed like we always did the Twitch feed with that. Some of these team spotlights will get played in there and so on. So just kind of switching gears for a second, and specifically, all those things we just talked about, were the details of them are towards FTC, but we would do the similar things with FRC, to keep people separated and so on. But on the FRC program itself, we currently have 96 teams that are registered. And when I say registered, they're registered and paid. So they actually paid First Headquarters for it. And that also includes 4 of those teams are rookie teams, which I think is pretty amazing in this year. We're trying to make sure that they can, at the very least, get a chassis built to run around with it. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, the thing we talked about a little bit about awards before, but again, I just want to reiterate it because I've had some questions about them. Is the innovation, the game design, and the home skills play pieces are actually, you're going to compete globally. So they're going to randomly select who the people you are actually competing against in those things. Only the dean's list and the chairman's and Woody Flowers will be done at the district level. The thing I will say, which is in a way weird, is if any of you win any of those other awards, you're actually going to be we're going to give the awards at our own award ceremonies. So headquarters is not doing a big one. They're actually having the districts do their own and recognize our own winners of these challenges. So, it doesn't matter where you actually competed at or the other teams you competed with. The other one is, we've got district awards. We're going to do district awards. We'll do those at multiple events as well as the championship level. And those there will be, for all the awards, for all the 96 registered teams can do all of those things for the funds that you've already paid for. Because we get a lot of this as like, we're planning on doing events. The first has not confirmed for sure that they're not going to do official first events, but they're kind of leaning that way. And I say, the kind of things they're looking for is the same kind of things we're looking for. They're looking at them saying, well, in your district, would it be possible to have a 250 person event? And those are the kind of things that they're looking at. So, and then also you have the thing of, with bigger events, you have people traveling bigger distances and so on. So, they're kind of committed that they would officially cancel them at the end of this month. And I guess for our purposes, we're thinking that they're probably going to end up canceling them. And so with that, we're kind of still planning on doing some kind of, off-season style hybrid events. So they won't be first official events. And again, this is discussions we're having with headquarters. and this is something they're actually proposing as well. So getting down that path to know exactly what that looks like. Hopefully we'll have that done in the next week or so. But what we are planning on with it is you would get, if you want to compete in these hybrid events, it's $1,000, and for $1,000 you can compete in 2 of the events. All right, and again, we're going to make them scalable. And I granted, for an FRC 10-person event's going to be much harder than it is for FTC. But we have to figure out those details. But we're still looking at 10, 25, and 50, because that's what the different states and local folks have for restrictions on it. So we have those, and then so what we're going to do is actually open up on the 25th. We're going to open up an FRC registration page, and that's kind of to get a feel for what events you want to go to, so we can kind of plan around which people, which teams are looking to actually compete and so on. The thing with all of this is that FRC is a little further off. I'm sorry. FRC is a little bit further off. So, the restrictions can obviously, we could potentially, get to the 25 level again, which I think would be a little bit more fun. But, I will tell you that if you talk to the folks that did the scrimmage on Saturday, they were thrilled that they were able to compete actually against, even though they're on the same alliance, it's like they're competing against another team there. That you work in your own space all by yourself, and the robot always works differently when there's another robot chasing around on the field with you. So from an FTC perspective, these are kind of the numbers for FTC that we have right now. We currently have 128 teams that have registered with for the FTC season with Chesapeake. And there's 156 that paid first. Now, some of the teams that paid first had money left in their accounts and so on, and that's why they paid them. But if you want to compete in any of our events, be they remote or be they hybrid events, you got to contact us and try to do payment. Now, one of the things I will point out on here, which is really important, I think, is if you paid CHS, you paid Chesapeake, but you didn't pay first, you actually can't compete at any events, because the way we do the judging piece of it is all through First Headquarters software, and so you will not be in that bunch. So make sure that if you're one of those 14 teams and you still want to compete for anything, even if it's just awards, you need to pay First Headquarters as well. All right. The first one on here, and Sarah is also on this call with us, is we are looking for judges for all of our events. And again, this is all just remote. So the judges, it's all remote. It's combination Zoom based and a few other things. But if you are interested at all in being a judge, send an email off to Sarah, and she'll be more than happy to help you and hook up you and all your friends as well to be a judge. So I think I covered most of the rest of the stuff on there. The last one, I guess, is not if your team can't meet in person, and I touched on this, is that you can still compete for awards. So we've had some teams that, they're not able to actually meet in person to do the remote option, to do remote matches, but they still want to do awards. Well, you can still do that. You just need to tell us that you're not going to, so we don't schedule for a slot, that you just want to do awards, and we'll just put you in the mix for awards in there. And this is kind of the latest and greatest here of events. Now, last time we talked about, we were going to combine different venues into one event. So it'd be a virtual event. So the first one I'll pick out on there is if I take the FTC Fulton event and the Fair Lawn event, the two of those are actually physically in those venues, but they're combined into one virtual event, which we're just calling all our events, red or blue. So they'll be in the red one event. So at the moment, there's 28 teams registered for Fulton for that event. and 5 teams registered in Fairlawn. And the one I wanted to point out on there is in the case where it's an odd number, because we're doing 10, there's 5 teams on there, but we obviously need 6 in order to do this. So we will actually get some surrogate teams. So whoever the last group is that's going through there, one of those teams will get picked as a surrogate to play with the 15. No different than in a regular season play. So your matches don't count towards your matches you play with that 15 don't count towards your rankings, but you do get some extra play time in. And I wanted to kind of point out the difference between some of these also is like the remote scrimmages are something you can do just for fun. You get on there and just, you can do test matches. You can, do 6 matches in there. And it doesn't count towards anything other than bragging rights that, I came in first there in the rankings or whatever. So those are on there. Those are open. Anybody can play those. They're not considered part of normal season play. So they are extra. The most you can do of qualifying events is 3. Those are extra events. The hybrid events, obviously we all kind of know about them now, is that, judging is all remote, but the event is actually the robot piece of it is in person on a small level. The remote play events it's the case where it's all remote. So we have 2 of them on there, and you can see remote 1 has 4 teams signed up for it right now. We have some of the teams that are in the remotes. People pick them as their third play as well. So you can use them however you want to. You're more than welcome to go between them. Some people are moving around based on where their robot is and stuff. And we're allowing, because it's such a weird year, we're not locking down the event you're in. As long as there's space in it, you can move up to a week before. So the week before that event, this weekend, we'll lock down the ones for the Fulton Fairlawn one, as far as, teams coming and going from there. With it, unless there's some exception there, but I mean, so that's kind of what we're doing. So we've had different people move into different events, and some have decided, well, I want to go to this venue instead of that venue, and that's all cool. So we're, just work with me on it, and I'll get you there. And then the next white block, we've got the Colonial Heights and Shenandoah Caverns are kind of combined into one event, and then so on down the line there. The other, I guess, big one that I want to point out on the bottom is the Northern and Southern District Championships. We actually decided to put them together, mainly because we'll end up with the same number of teams going forward. I mean, in essence, every year you end up with about 1/3 of the teams that actually go from qualifiers and make it to the championship level. That will still hold true. It works out this year, of our registered teams, about 80% of them are actually the closest venue is actually the Fulton, Maryland venue. So it would make for a large event in Fulton and a smaller one in Colonial Heights. So kind of decided we'll put the 2 of those together. We'll play them as one event, kind of jumping back and forth between the 2 venues, and teams will be able to pick. You can, just like others, you'll be able to pick, the closest venue to you, or you can pick if you want to travel to the other one, you'll be able to travel to the other one. So there won't be any restriction on whether you're considered a North or a South or whatever team. You'd be able to go back and forth. So, and this here, we've had a lot of conversations before about this, about using the remote hub. So for our purposes, we're not going to be using the remote hub. This is actually, and this is what, if you're doing any of those remote scrimmages or the remote events or anything now, you need to kind of, that URL that's at the bottom of the page, you need to pay a lot of attention to, because it's that FTC scoring is their cloud scoring system. That is where, and if you look on the top there, this is a rookie team actually that I was using for the example here, but for the remote scrimmages, they can play matches on here. And then if they're going to the traditional hybrid event, right? That's where you enter your judging information. And what I was showing here is if you click on judging, everybody's been asking about where do I put my information and so on. You'd go in here and you would actually submit your engineering portfolio in here. And if you want to go for the control award, you put in your control award form, which also has to include the URL link to wherever your control award video is going to be located. So most of the teams are actually just putting them out on YouTube for the control award. So the form is in the back of the manual for remote events. And then if you are interested in feedback, you would go in there, open that request, and put your information in there saying, I want to get some feedback from that. This part of the system isn't live yet. I pulled this out of a test system that we've been testing it in that looks really, really good. And they'll be in the process of setting us up and turning us on next week in the live system. So the big thing to point out here is, again, you have to have paid first, and only mentor 1 and mentor 2 can submit material. And it all goes back to their YPP screening and all that stuff. So you have to be, the mentors have to be screened and have finished their consent release, and then they can submit these awards in there. The only people that can see them are mentor 1 and 2 and the judges. The other one I will say is you can, as a coach, you can create a team account for a student or another mentor or something to actually do remote scoring for you, but it only works for scoring, nothing else. And so basically, what's weird about it is the first time you go to that location, it's going to make it look like you're signing into your dashboard. So it uses your user ID and password from your dashboard, which is how it takes the link back to the YPP and make sure you've had that. But there is nothing on your dashboard that's an easy way to jump over to here. So, that link's there. We're actually adding that link at the top of our pages on the FTC events page. It should already be there, I think, where you click on it to get to that information at the top of the screen. Okay. I guess we'll open up the questions. It looks like we got a lot of questions. Hang on one second here. We had some questions that came up ahead of time, and I'll hit those first and then jump over to the new ones. This one was, what is the criteria to decide on reopening events? Basically, this is oriented towards the FRC thing of making live events. And I think we touched on it, is that, headquarters is using a lot of similar things that we are. And I think in most cases, for most of their events, it gets a little more complicated because they have to run everything by their board of directors. So if they say they want to do something, then they have to present it to the board. And I'm assuming that's what's taken them so long to kind of figure these things out. But there is no documented any, process of what they're going through or anything like that, other than, they're trying to use the local, what local people are saying for restrictions. The next question was about merging the two events and the Fulton event, merging Fulton event 1 and Fulton event 2. All the events that we did the merging on, I had contacted all the teams about it and actually told folks I moved you into those other events. We had, 4 or 5 teams that actually said, well, put me over here instead. And so I did that. So it was, we're, like I say, the movement of where you want to go and what you want to do there is, we're trying to be as flexible as possible because we know you guys are all having to deal with all this as rapidly as we are. So how many FRC teams signed up for the season? We answered that one too. That's 96. If you opt in for FRC at home, can you still participate in in-person competitions? And are there financial or otherwise considerations? And the answer is yes. The two things are kind of independent of each other. The money that you paid to First Headquarters gives you all of those awards. You can do all of those. And, we're just looking to run events in addition to that. So people can get used to the field and get on the field and do things. And so I guess we'll flip over here to these other ones. There's a lot of questions. Let's see. How many slots does Chesapeake have for Worlds? Okay, that's a question. We kind of answered it last time with the fact that they aren't giving out the number of slots that are going to Worlds. Their goal is to make it based on your merit of your performance, but also like with FRC, if they don't hold events, it's going to have to be totally more like a lottery kind of setup, which they do. So we're going to all have to wait and see how many move forward. The other one we don't know, and I don't know if the question's in there later, but we don't know how many Dean's List students will actually be moving forward to first as well. I mean, you have to think about, they have the situation where they have, if it's Worlds and there's people coming from all over the world, may not be a very easy thing to, half of those people can't come anyway. So, now what do we do? So, we're going to all have to kind of sit back and wait and see what happens. I think they're hoping by the time they hold it, things will be better, but we all are. We're all hoping this vaccine does a lot for all of us. Let's see, next one on here. Not sure what this one means. Where can we find out more about the virtual FTC competition? If you're talking about the remote events, I mean, that's all on that that FTC scoring First Inspires website. If you don't mean that, I guess put another question in to kind of clarify that a little bit more, because I'm not really sure. Okay, can coaches apply their team members to the first Dean's List if the team can't compete? Yes, you could. The way it worked out is our events, you have to submit your Dean's List. If you've already submitted them, you're fine. But you have to submit your Dean's List students by the 15th of the month prior to the month that you're competing in. So for teams competing in February, which is all our events, right, you had to have already put that in. Now we had, I think, 5 people that did it in the 15th of December. So we have 5 interviews we're doing this coming weekend. And Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's 5. And then the rest of the group will be done in February. I will say there was the way they put them out there this year, and I've had questions about this too, because some people submitted the Dean's List person against an event, and then they decided they were going to switch events and move to another event. And it doesn't actually matter, because there was a Dean's List event that everybody was supposed to be submitted against, so we didn't have that problem. But it doesn't really matter. We're going to do them all in, we have the list of everybody that's on there. We're going to, the Dean's List judges, with Sarah's help, are going to figure this out, and when they're going to schedule folks to actually get their interviews during the month. So you will be contacted.
Well, and Ron, we may need some clarification on that too, because I didn't think if you paid first in the dashboard, you were allowed to submit somebody for Dean's List. I could be wrong.
I was assuming that they were talking about that they paid us in there, but
yeah. So I don't know that the dashboard will allow you to submit. I don't know that you can, because if you're not a paid team in the dashboard, so we may need some clarification and follow up on that.
Well, you can't submit anyway. It's closed. Our events are done. As far as that goes.
Okay.
As far as Dean's List, you had to submit by the 15th of January, or you couldn't submit.
Okay.
What else we got here? Oops, did you just put something up, Matt? Okay, which alliance will teams compete on if the indoor limit is 10 people? So hopefully I answered that when we went, but it's basically, you're going to be on the same alliance every time. The first time it's going to switch back and forth between red and blue. So the first time, you'll be on one side of the field, the other team will be on the other side of the field, right, in the driver station area there. And, your robots will both be in the blue section. You'll both compete as blue. The next match, you'll both be in the red section. You'll both compete as red. And that's kind of how it is. You'll both be on the exact same alliance every time. And every match, you'll just switch colors. And that's kind of more oriented towards, the issues of, I guess, making it fair because you're on both sides of the field, but also, it has your autonomous that gets tested for both sides in there. I will say about it also is both teams came and, they actually, because you have that whole area on that side, it was real easy to just set your drive station, everything right on the ground there. Nobody brought any tables or anything over. We're basically, anything you bring that you use, you got to take out with you because we're not providing any of that. And we don't want to clean all that. That's your stuff to bring home with you. So hopefully I answered that question. Okay, recap consent and release. So basically every one of the events, and every one of the events we have, you go to the event page for that specific venue, and on it, there is a consent and release form. And if you can, just before, and do it the week before that event, you just take that form, download that form, and then have each student can download it and mentor. And, because everybody who comes has to fill that out. You just fill it out and bring it to the event with you. The reason I say go to the webpage and do it is we want to make sure you got the most current one. If for some reason it ends up having to change, it's best to pull it off the event page because that one on the event page we keep up to date. We haven't changed it in a while, but, it's best to get the right one, and that's the best place to get it. And that also needs to be filled out, by the way, for volunteers that are coming. So volunteers, anybody that's at the venue needs to fill that out. So if you're, head ref or production person or whatever, you still need to fill out that form because we need to know who is there. Is it too late to switch over to remote event if you're signed up? And the answer is no, it's not too late. We've had a few people going both directions there. We've had some people that signed up for remotes and then found out they could do a regular one and they went over. So again, as long as you can actually, in the registration system, you can move yourself. A week before, which, will be coming up here for the first event, that's when we're going to lock it down so you can't move yourself out of it. In those cases, you're going to have to, contact me and we'll talk through it. But yeah, you can, again, same thing I've told people is if you can't do anything now and you can do a remote event, do the remote event. If if we get 2-3 weeks down the road, they change and say, okay, well now you can do it in person, do the one in person. We're trying to do the best we possibly can to accommodate everybody so that everybody has an option to be able to compete one way or another. When will specific locations, start time information for the 31st be sent out to participating teams? Will it be a welcome packet? So it will not be a welcome packet. What's going to end up happening is again, on the bottom of, if you go to that event, at the bottom of that event, and we'll make sure we send something out, at least for this first one, reminding everybody to go look there. But it says, I think it says teams event info or something, right? Do you remember what it says, Sarah? There's a list anyway where you would get a list. I was
actually looking it up right now. Hold on.
There's on the bottom, there's a button where you get a list of all the teams that are participating at it.
Yes.
That's also going to include the schedule. And we are going to send something, and I'll be doing that later this week. I'll be sending out something to teams. For some teams, have a preference for when we have several teams, for religious reasons or whatever, they don't want to compete on a Sunday. They want to, do it on a Saturday because it interferes with church and such. And, we're going to do whatever we can to accommodate that if possible. If everybody had that problem, we would have a bigger problem. But that is what, we'll send that out. We'll get that. And then, as it gets locked down on Monday, then I can run a schedule based on it being locked down. But please remember that, because there's only two teams there, if you don't show up, you're really hurting that other team that you got paired with, because, they're not going to get the points from two robots. They're going to get the points from their own robot. So
it's also equally important that you guys remember to maybe be there earlier on time. We're going to do the best we can to control, making sure we keep the 10 people in. So you might be asked to wait outside in the parking lot or at the door, because if you get stuck in traffic and you're 10 minutes late, it's potential you'll miss your first match.
just drop dead date. So again, I would prefer
1 week.
You're 1 week. I mean, there's where I say there's an exception. The exception is, let's say you guys are meeting and it turns out that somebody ended up getting COVID or something. We'll want to move you, let you compete later on when everybody's healthy again. And that would be more the exception, where we would try to accommodate those kind of things for you, but as long as there's room.
So that is this, I believe they're referring to the same event. So the events are listed from January 25th through the 31st.
Oh, okay.
Remote events cover a week to give you time to input your scores, right?
Yeah.
Because you can run your remote play anytime as far as match play goes, right?
So for the remote play one, you actually, you play 6 matches. And in those 6 matches, you can play them anytime during that week. So you don't have to get together and run 6 of them in a row. You can play one every day, I guess, if you wanted to. You probably wouldn't want to, but if you might get on and say, tonight we're going to run 3 matches, and tomorrow night we'll run 3 matches, and go through that way. And we're going to send the link out for this too, for the teams that are in that first one, is what we're going to ask you for is if you can record one of your matches, and hopefully it'll be your best match. And we're going to put that out on Dropbox, and we're going to stitch together. The different videos from the different teams, because part of the fun is, in a regular event, is watching the robots in motion. So we may end up using that as filler during some of our other events, or it may just be out there and available for teams to play. But that's what we'd like to do. So, and we'll send out the links and all that for that. Again, next Monday, when we've got that nailed down more. But that whole week, doesn't mean that first day you have to do anything. You can do it anytime during that whole week. You can do it all 6 of them on Sunday if you want, as long as you finish by 6 o'clock, because that's when I'm gonna roll the numbers up, and you'll be able to see the rankings at the end. You're not going to see rankings as the teams go along, right? So as people submit, I mean, I'll be able to see them online, but we're not going to share that with everybody, so that you don't have the score to beat and all that stuff. But when the event is done, all of those will end up getting published. You'll see where you sit in the rankings and the whole thing, and the awards part of that as well. When's judging for the remote FTC event? Most
Saturday.
likely, yeah, that's going to be on that Saturday of that week. Basically. And again, all those things depend on how many teams end up over in there. If we got,
but they'll be scheduled. Remote judging will be scheduled.
scheduled.
You'll receive a time and communication in advance so that you can plan for.
It'll be done exactly like the other events, really. All right, next question. Yeah, Discord is a messaging for communications and organizations. Okay, so the restrictions are, from our perspective, and I know a lot of people use it and so on. First, this kind of put the restriction on us to not use it, specifically where kids are involved with their own accounts on it. And that's, because it's kind of like, well, now I have an adult that can talk to a kid. Now I know your information, and I can go talk to you, not in necessarily our Discord, but any Discord, right? Because I see who you are. I can message you outside of the environment. And, again, that's a YPP restriction that First Headquarters has placed on us. And, we're trying to work around it as just as best we can. The team rankings are going to be based on the scores, the team scores. I mean, they've kind of made it, they kind of redid a lot of the stuff in the system this year simply because of, the remote versus in-person events. As confirmed, there will be only be a 4 stack for FTC. Yes, it is. So there'll be 4 stacks for all FTC competitions for us, not for everybody. Other places can play differently, but we kind of decided we wanted to settle on the 4. We'll keep 4. It kind of levels the playing field for it. So that's for your remote, or what someone on here was calling the virtual. In both those kind of events, you will use the 4 stack for all of them. What's the control award video? So normally with the control award, what's different is the judges actually watch some matches. So you would submit your control award form that says, I'm using these sensors, I'm doing all these things, and they would look at that, and then they'd go see how you performed on autonomous or whatever at that event. Well, the issue is they're not going to be there. They're not at the events to watch that. So for the things that you claim your robot can do in your control award form, you need to generate a video that shows that. So if it's, how it works in autonomous or whatever, you have to somehow do that in that. Now there is a thing, and I know, some people have talked about it, is technically you don't have to show your robot off. Apparently some places have done it where they haven't been able to build a robot, but they applied for the control award based on how they designed the robot. If you can impress the judges enough with that, I see no reason you couldn't win. But again, I think there's a lot more to it. How long can the control award video be? What we ask is that you keep the control award video to a minute. And the big thing with it is, can you imagine if we have 40 people that submit them and the judges have to watch them, and we made them 5 minutes a piece or something? It would be they would never be able to go through them well. So, to make it fair to everybody, if everybody keeps them to a minute, then I think that's something we talked about with the judges or the JAs. Do we know who we'd bring this to if we want to possibly contest this? What is contest? I'm not sure what you mean.
It's in reference to Discord, the use of Discord.
Discord.
At the
Okay.
headquarters.
He was the Discord thing. I actually don't know. I think it's really the person that ultimately made the decision is Ken Johnson, who runs the FTC program. But they looked at it. We actually, I will say, and Matt, who's on this, our production guy behind the scenes here, he even had conversations with headquarters about using it as well, and they said no. But that is, I think you'd have to take it up with the program staff at headquarters.
Joanne is on. It appears Joanne's listing her email on here for. I thought I saw it. Yeah, Joanne Halloran. Yep.
Ron, I think we skipped over one of the questions. Someone said that they had paid registration for FRC at headquarters. They wanted to know what the benefits were for registering locally.
Okay, so I guess the with the headquarters one, you get those different challenges that they've come up with this year. But with the registration with us, you actually get to play on the field. So we're basically doing an FRC event on that field. So, that's the big difference. If you want to do something in person, you can do that. Is there any chance of adding a final remote event at the end? Again, that depends on registrations. If we'll shift things around that way. Our whole issue is, as everybody knows, moving these things around because we're using a lot of the same things, same people also for FTC and FRC, our shifting to, comes into play with FRC and FTC and how it fits together. But yeah, if we need another remote, there's certainly a possibility that'll come in. Let me address on other. No, I mean, all the stuff on all the awards is in the manuals, and basically just go to the remote game manual and you will see it there.
And we do know that the game manual, I do believe, says that they can request an engineering notebook. And our judge advisors, we've talked about this numerous times. They don't see a reason or a need to request the full engineering notebook. They really want teams to concentrate on giving them all the information they need in the portfolio.
And how we're looking at this, it's going to kind of be that you don't have a way to submit it anyway. I mean, the beauty of that submission thing is, you can only submit what the items that they allow you to submit. You can't put extra stuff in there.
So the question on judging, yeah. So we are in the process of learning from other areas. Our judge advisors are on weekly calls with other people that are doing remote events and other events to learn best practices for judging. We will have information out and on the pages so that you're fully prepared for your judging interviews and how they're going to happen. We will be using Zoom, but there'll be more information coming.
Yep. And as far as FRC dates, we're keeping the FRC dates where they are. The thing you have to realize is, we've had to go get commercial venues this year, and it's not cheap. And, we have to get our own internet and all these other things. And so, it's adding another month on or whatever, it would be too costly for us.
That's a question for I would have to look at the manual. That's a head ref question. Yeah. We can get that answer for you, but not right now.
No, I don't want to be wrong. Yes, for remote events, you have that entire time. So you just have to submit your 6 anytime between that 25th and the 31st. So, it's just kind of schedule your team whenever you guys get together.
Ron, can I jump in on this one?
Sure.
It was the any chance for delay. Yeah. For delay for the championship. We've already delayed the championship from last year to this year. So we have, again, as Ron said, we've invested a lot of money into these venues, and it's very hard to move these dates around. It takes a lot of time to plan. So right now, that date is not moving. And it is in April.
Okay. You can go on the next one, Matt.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to consult the referees on that, on the number of rings.
The number of what?
Rings.
Yeah.
There isn't a case with a full field and only 2 robots. Some of the number of rings has never been specified. They're wanting to know if they can pick up the rings on the other side for a 4. It's a good question. It's a valid question. I don't know if would be a question for the forum or if we need to.
No, that's a question that we need to answer ourselves.
Okay.
It's not we're not running a standard event, so.
Okay.
Next question. You have to pay locally and compete to be championship eligible. That is correct as far as Chesapeake championships go. Next one.
I think we reached the end of the questions.
Okay, well, that's perfect because that puts us 1 minute clock. I wanted to thank all of y'all for joining us tonight. These are great questions. We'll go back and look at them and see, see what we missed and see if we can address them in an update to y'all with some other information about the things we mentioned, like the grants, the mentor award, and the remote challenge or the virtual challenge that we talked about tonight. I wanted to thank Ron for being on here, our director of programs, Sarah, our volunteer and community engagement guru, and Matt Glennon, our man behind the curtain. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Y'all have a great night.
Bye, guys.